Hey everybody, Mike Iaconelli just wrapped up the first Bass Elite event on Cherokee Lake. Man, what a strange tournament. Started the event out, it was in the 20s. Ended the event 70 degrees and very turbid weather. And that was really how I fished this week as well. Is I fished for largemouth and smallmouth, and that was really key for me to stay steady over 4 days and turn out 11th place finish. 2 of the days I caught largemouth, and my largemouth this week came on 2 different baits. And the first one was a jig, and it's a standby cold water lure for largemouth. This is a green pumpkin. This is a missile mini flip jig, 1/2 ounce, and I just put a half of a devil's spear on the back. I just break it in half and put that devil's spear in the back. So it's a lot like a chunk with a little more action. That was a key bait. The second key bait for largemouth for me this week, and I used this to cover a little bit more water, was a crankbait. And crankbaits that are moderate to tight wobble excel in colder water temperatures. And I used a Rapala DT6. That's an Ike's custom ink color called Disco Shad. Look just like the shad those largemouth are feeding on. And for the largemouth bite, I focused on the last remaining rock going into shallow, muddy pockets. And it was really a pattern you could run. You'd run into a pocket. If the water was dirty, you'd look for the last piece of rock, especially that flat rock sticking out. I'd throw the jig. In between the rocks, I'd throw the crankbait. Really key for me for 2 days. But the last 2 days, the largemouth bite went away, and I had to fish for smallmouth. And I did that in a lot deeper water. I moved out to 20 to 30 foot, and I targeted what I would call secondary points. And I used 2 separate baits. And why most guys out here this week were throwing a Demiki rig, I used a good old-fashioned drop shot. And it's I switched between 2 different baits. That's a Berkeley power bait. And I also used a Gulp twitch tail minnow. Both 3-inch baits, both in a color called Watermelon Pearl. Used about a 16-inch leader to a 3/16 ounce VMC, 3/8 ounce VMC tungsten weight. And I fished that pretty vertically. When I'd get on those secondary points and I'd see one, I would drop down and I would start to shake it. But when I didn't see anything on the graph and I was trying to cover a little more water on those deep secondary points, I used a really cool bait that's a staple in cold water. And if you have a water temperature that's below 50 degrees, this thing's always tied on one of my rods. And you guys probably know them as Silver Buddies, blade style baits. And this is one by Mullix. It's called a Trago Vibe. It's a 3/8 ounce. And the way I fish that bait is a lot like you would slow roll a rattle trap. I'd cast it out there. When I didn't see arcs, I would make a short cast out there, let it sink to the bottom, and I'd boom, boom, lift and fall, boom. Just kind of like slow rolling a rattle trap. Amazing cold water bait this time of the year. When you're fishing a lake, if you can get both species, it's a better way to enter the tournament. Think about largemouth, think about smallmouth. Try some of those baits I talked about, and you're going to catch more fish.